Everyone, welcome. We'll just wait a minute for a few more people to trickle in. While we're waiting, if everyone wants to put in the chat where they're joining from and whether you practice transcendental meditation or not, it would just be great to get a sense of where everyone is joining from. I'm personally here from Vancouver. I'm on the West Coast right now. And we've got lots of people joining from different parts of Canada. All right. We've got Toronto, Victoria, Quebec, London, Ontario, Vernon, Vancouver, Toronto, Spain. We've got someone from Spain joining. That's so wonderful. Welcome. Ottawa, Palm Desert, Montreal, Corb Corbeil, Ontario. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, Mark. Halifax, Oakville, Vancouver Island, another Halifax, Nova Scotia, Vancouver. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Welcome Beach, Saga Beach. Great. Great to have you all here with us today. So, welcome to this special event, which is all about increasing your resilience to stress with Transcendental Meditation. And today it's going to be presented by Dr. Guy-Paul Gagné. And today we're going to discover how Transcendental Meditation offers a simple yet powerful solution to build resilience and effectively reduce stress. And during this session, you'll discover science behind why Transcendental Meditation is so effective in reducing stress and how TM enhances your ability to respond to stressors with greater calm and resilience. To start us off, Dr. Gagné will share his expertise and the extensive scientific research on TM's effectiveness in reducing stress and building resilience. And at the end of today's talk, you'll have the opportunity to learn how to start your TM journey by attending a free preparatory session with a certified TM teacher. And there will also be time to ask questions to Dr. Gagné at the end. So if you have any questions while we're going through, write them down so you remember them at the end. Before we dive in, Dr. Gagné, just let me take a moment to introduce you to everyone. Dr. Gagné is a medical doctor and former assistant professor in the Faculty of Medicine at McGill University in Montreal. He has been a prolific speaker on maternity care and the scientific research on TM, including its application in education and stress management. And on top of all of that, he has 30 years of experience in clinical practice, teaching, and research. So we welcome you very much today, Dr. Gagné. And to start off our session, just so that we're all on the same page, I was wondering, how do you define resilience to stress? How would you explain that to someone?
Isha, thank you for inviting me. This is a good question. Actually, resilience, it's a scientific term, it's a physiology term, actually, and I will go deeper during the presentation so you understand. But basically, stress is unavoidable. We cannot really be out of life and have no stress at all. It's almost impossible. And there is also good stress and bad stress. So resilience is actually being able to overcome the bad stress and not accumulate these layers of stress in your physiology, and then eventually you get sick, it ruins your life. You can have a burnout or many side effects. Stress is actually considered the basic cause of many problems, health problem and quality of life problem. Actually, it is now very well known. You see, we are used to see that older people get more disease or problems with their health and everything. And when you're young, if you're lucky, usually you don't have too much of these health problems. we have our challenges when we're young. You have to face the reality, build up your life, your financial security and everything. It's very stressful sometimes. And you have to deal with your boss and these things that, come sometime it gets on you every day because you have a toxic boss or toxic job, or it really can become really difficult. But on the short term, it's difficult, but it does not seem to harm your health. But actually, we know now that the reason why older people get more health problem because they've accumulated the stress. So resilience is the capacity of the physiology to forget these stress, to get rid of them instead of piling them up and then ending up with a disease at the end. So I, I am, I was personally very, very impressed with the capacity, having looked at the scientific research on TM for many, many years. I am now very impressed by the capacity of TM to really go after these deep-rooted stress and get rid of the accumulating stress and prevent disease. And it's now very well demonstrated by science. It all started, my interest in TM, it all started with my own experience. I have to go back. When I was studying medicine, I was actually being trained as an obstetrician and gynecologist. It was in 1978, so that's a long time ago. I did not say my age already, but later on maybe I'll let you know. But in 1978, I was doing my training to be a specialist in obstetric gynecology, and it became kind of very heavy on my sleep and time of resting time and everything. I had to answer calls, going to emergency room, and I had to be up and about. I had some time to cover the deliveries, for the whole night, and then in the morning I had a clinic, and I could spend some time 24 hours without almost not much sleep. Well, it was at some time, I became worried that it's going to harm my well-being, and I was looking for some rest. Basically that's was my I was looking for more rest and the capacity to recover more quickly when I had some stressful events or something like this. And it's actually almost by chance. I was on call one of these nights, waiting in between two calls, and I see this scientific journal was there just on the table beside my chair. I pick it up, and on the first page, it was, Transcendental Meditation, the new way of releasing stress or something. I forgot the title, but that was a scientific article. So I opened it up, and then I read in this article, I read that, TM was very good at reducing, and at that time it was not measure cortisol. Back in 78, they were measuring the skin resistance. When you're under stress, the skin become moist. You have a bit of a fluid, on the skin. So then the electrical resistance between 2 points of the skin change because of the presence of water, of sweat, actually. And then you can measure this, and they measure that when you practice TM, you don't sweat almost. So you stay very relaxed even in front of stress. I said, that's interesting for me. And then they also said a very interesting thing I still remember. They said that if you close your eyes and you practice TM for 20 minutes, it's like about 3-4 hours of sleep, because your oxygen consumption of the body goes down lower than when you would during sleep. So it's equivalent of a big period of rest. That's the most important aspect that convinced me, because I was lacking sleep, and I said, I should go there. And in these days, in the 70s, TM was the only meditation available. So I have no, uh, I cannot say that I had difficulty making a choice because there was not much choice. It was available in Montreal, and I went to a TM teacher and I got trained. And today it's a different situation because over time, in the 80s and 90s and even many type of meditation became available. And then even the scientific community became confused. Meditation is a bit of a mixture of everything, sorts of different techniques, but they put that all into the same boat, same bag of meditation. And then the science became a bit confused because they were comparing different type of meditation, thinking it was the same, but it wasn't the same. Anyway, we'll see this later. So my experience in 1978, when I started TM, my experience was immediate relief. Immediate relief. I did not have to wait for so many weeks of practice or anything like this. Immediately, I felt more rested, more calm. I was able to face a tough clinical situation without keeping that in my mind, because in my kind of business, you can become PTSD fairly quickly because there is all these, everything goes well usually, but once in a while you get a catastrophic thing in surgery or something like this. And then you have to have a technique not to get completely burned out with these things. So anyway, for me, it was a total discovery, relief, okay? But that was my experience. And then I went on practicing, in my career, and I was very successful and, very was able to face all these things without losing my well-being, kind of. But you can also ask, maybe I was just good, it was maybe my own situation, but would it be the same with everyone? Okay. So I started looking at following the research on TM. And then I realized the more I was looking at science, the more I was finding that all my experiences, they were matched with scientific study proving it for other people, not only for me. So that's why I'm here today to talk to you about the scientific research about TM and the way it's different from other technique and what is the capacity of TM to really change your life, like it did for me. Okay, so this is gonna be the reason. As a physician, also I have the responsibility when I recommend something to people or to my patient that I have to be able to verify myself and then from scientific literature that it's worked and it's safe and it's good and it's gonna give the predicted effect. And that's something interesting about TM that I found also all along is that, the TM technique that I was trained into in 1978, it's exactly the same technique that you can have today. It's exactly. TM is very standardized. It is the teachers of TM, they are always trained the same way. They're certified and it's standardized and protocolized, and that makes also something very important, TM being probably at this point the oldest technique of meditation available in the West, at least for us. The scientific studies that were done in 1995 or something, they're applicable today. It's not the same for many other techniques that are new and have evolved and changed and everything. And it's now a criticism that science mention a lot when they check the different kind of meditation. They say, okay, this meditation is kind of new, it has changed, and then it's not as standardized. Many researchers now, they like to take TM because TM is standardized and it's been the same all along. So if you do a research on that and you get good result, you're sure that your results, you're confident that the results will be replicable to the population after that. So that's very nice. So then we can talk about a huge experience, scientific experience and personal experience. You'll find people having practiced TM for 40 years. It's very easy to find. It's not so easy to find people having practiced another technique for so long because it wasn't there actually almost. So let's go to the presentation. I'm just gonna get rid of here something on my screen. Good. Share. Okay, so I have another news for you. TM will increase the resilience to stress. We already discussed this. What is resilience? But some of the newer research about TM have shown that on top of dealing properly with stress, you gain peak performance. That's one thing I'm going to bring, toward the presentation. Peak best performance. It seems like, no, not it seems, it was shown that TM can actually allow you to have the best performance you can have in your field. It's going to bring you, it has the possibility of bringing you to the top performance of your field. I mean, we always have a field, you cannot become someone else, but let's say you're a musician, let's say you're a nurse, or you're a taxi driver, or you're a plumber, anything you are, there is always ways to improve what you are, and TM will allow you to do this, and it's very well demonstrated. So let's go into the detail in the research. Probably you understood by now that I was looking on the web at some comments about TM, and I saw this People's Network last year. This guy, was just learned TM not too long ago, and he said TM offers a path to inner peace that is both ancient and urgently needed. Ancient because it's been always there. It's an old technique, and it's also been there for now 60 years, 65, 70 years in the West. But it's urgently relevant because today we're faced with such an amount of pressure that we always thought that modernity, modern life, modern technology will relieve us of the pressure of stress, but it probably did the opposite. Mainly because every time we have a new discovery that is supposed to make our life easier, it does make our life easier, but instead of resting in between after work, we just pile up some other activities. So now we're kind of producing more for the same amount of time. So then it became some very, very heavy and stressful. But he always go and say, the most profound solutions, they are also the simplest. And we sometimes forget that we have all the capacity within us to deal with all of this. Okay, so this is all about TM. TM is a simple, natural, and effortless mental technique. So you just dive within you, and then you find all the strength. That's what they told me in 1978. But between me and you, they had nothing else than the experience of people. to prove this, but now science has shown the way this works. Okay, so with the science now we can understand very much. So first of all, first thing I want to make, first point is that not all meditation are the same. Okay, I already told you a bit this, but there was a lot of confusion in the 1990s on meditation because everybody thought meditation was all just a kind of you close your eyes and whatever you do inside, it's meditation and blah, blah, blah. And that should be all the same, but it's not the same. It's only in 2010, actually, that the scientific community came to kind of an agreement between all the scientists and everything that meditations can be divided in three categories of practices, okay? And they were divided by the level of cognitive control. So because when you close your eyes and you start practicing something, meditation, you have to do something inside. There is a teaching, there is something, a job you have to do inside. So whether this job is effortless or needs a lot of effort, this is the way they classified. See, the most focused attention is with the first category with most cognitive control. You have to really do something. You have a job. It's a concentration technique, sustained focus and voluntary control of attention. It means these are Chinese tradition, Tibetan meditation, and other meditation that is very often described in focused attention is loving kindness meditation, whatever, just you have to understand that it's a concentration technique. So you have to fix your mind on something depending on the technique is breathing or sometimes it's an object, sometimes it's a feeling, but you have to fix your attention on it. And if there is some thinking that comes to disturb this, and it's inevitable always, the mind always goes around, there will be thinking, thoughts, that will come and disturb that. You have to push these thoughts out. So you're actively working at kicking your concentration. That's concentration technique. Lots of cognitive effort. It's not physical, but mental effort. Second is open monitoring. It's more like Buddhist tradition. It comes from the Buddhist. It's like mindfulness and a lot of cognitive behavioral psychotherapy. They are put into this open monitoring. It's not like you're concentrating, but you're observing. It's an observation technique. You have to close your eyes, or even sometimes your eyes can be open for this open monitoring, and then you just watch what is going on, and then you accept it, without no evaluation of this. Okay, the idea is to develop a distance from the feeling, so that if you have stressful situation and you're under stress and everything, and you just close your eyes and you watch the feeling coming, oh, my boss is toxic, or my work is too hard, or oh, I'm no good at doing this. Then you learn how to just see this and keep yourself out of it, kind of. So that's open monitoring. It's I like to compare it to cognitive behavioral psychotherapy, actually. And it worked well for some people, but for some other people, it doesn't work. It's like psychotherapy. It doesn't work for everyone. And it never will dissolve the stress as much as TM will do. So that's open monitoring. Then the third is automatic self-transcending. This is no effort. Effortless technique. Only TM is there. It's more a Vedic tradition actually of India. But because there is no effort in transcending, it's automatic transcending. Because there is no effort, all the benefit of TM, they derive from this characteristic of being no effort. Okay? So when the scientists decided to classify the meditation in these three categories, they didn't do that only on the idea that it was cognitively more effort, less effort, because actually in the brain, it's completely different what's happening. You have the three categories here, and these are EEG tracing, electroencephalogram. This is the electric activity of the brain. They put these wire on the scalp, and then they measure the electric activity. If you do focus attention, the electric activity is very intense. And it's normal if for example, you try to resolve a math problem, or you're concentrated on composing an email or something, you'll probably have a tracing like this. This is normal to have a tracing like this, very quick, very rapid, okay, kind of. These gamma wave, they call them gamma. They're divided into different categories, but we won't do in the detail of that. But these gamma wave, they are externalizing. This is when you take your mind out of yourself and into an activity. Open monitoring, it's when you start to evaluate. Let's say you're trying to make a decision between, am I going to my holidays next vacation? Am I going to go to let's say the beach or the mountain? And then you're evaluating the poor, yes, this and that, and this and that. You'll produce these theta waves, which are just observation, evaluation, observation. It's related to what we call the working memory. Well, that's too complicated. Let's say, you see, it's different. It's not the same activity. And transcending, it creates into the brain this alpha activity, which is an inward alpha activity of the brain. In the electric activity of the brain is considered a self-referral activity, meaning that you close your eyes, and if you think about yourself, kind of, or you go into, oh, when I was young, and blah, something like this, you internalize a little bit. Some alpha activity will appear, but it will be alpha 2. Anyway, so that's another kind, but only TM can bring this alpha activity, which is an inward march of the mind. Inward, you really go inward instead of the two other techniques. They keep you outward looking, observation or concentration. Okay, it's very important difference. This is why TM is alone in its capacity of doing that and that and that. Okay, when you learn TM, the teacher will give you this example that just to give you an idea of just easier in practice, what does it represent? If you compare the mind with an ocean, or lake or something, on top of the ocean there are always waves. The waves are your thoughts. They're always there. It's impossible to stop that. It's a thinking always, huh? So the thoughts are wave. And it can be very busy up here. Sometimes the waves, if you're under stress and everything, they can be big waves, small waves, or sometimes a disaster wave because you just under so much pressure or something like this. So anyway, waves will never stop there. On an ocean, even if the waves are very high on the top, if you dive deep inside, at the bottom, it's very quiet. It's very silent. And actually, mind has a depth like this. And it's known by psychologists that you have the subconscious mind and all the different levels here, the quieter level, quiet. It's like the thoughts, when the thoughts come from this silent area of your mind. If you see the bubble, if there is a bubble of air coming out from the bottom, it goes bigger and bigger. Then the thoughts is here. Oh, you see, I have this thought. But before that, the thought came from the bottom. So with TM, what you use is a mantra. It's a sound without meaning. So when you use it in a very specific way that the teacher, you have to learn that with a teacher. I cannot teach you this now, but then because the word has no meaning, it won't get caught at the surface. And then if you use it properly, you just dive in and then you reach the source of thought, which is very silent. Okay, so compared to other type of meditation, if I concentrating on something, I see the focused attention at the beginning. It's like focusing on a wave and I keep looking at the same wave and then it goes, it goes, it goes. And then if something, another thought, another wave comes and disturb me, no, go, 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 I'm on this one. Okay, so that's focus, that's concentration. Contemplation is that I'm just looking at all the waves going. And then but in both cases, I'm watching the top. I don't go down, okay? So that's the difference, basically. This difference, it's not a joke, you know, I told you the difference, but you say, well, that's a good theory, but in practice, does it make any difference? Yes, it makes a big difference. Now we have some proof of that. With brain imaging, TM was shown, and that's a unique characteristic of TM. During the practice of TM, you see this is the brain here. Brain is, you can separate in two parts. The upper brain is the thinking brain, basically, but you have also all the movement and things like this. But basically, the thinking brain is at the top. And the lower part of the brain is the automatic pilot of your physiology. All the automatic processes of your physiology, like the respiratory rate, heart rate, glucose concentration, cortisol level, hormones, everything that is going on, digestion, everything that is going on in your body without you being aware of changing it or being able to change it, actually. You have no control on this. It's an automatic thing. It's driven by this lower part of the brain here. And you see during TM, you see, this is a MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. The red is increase of activity, and the blue is decrease in activity. That's the way they kind of, they could choose some other colors, but that's the way they color this. Activity, when it's more, it's red. Activity, when it's less, it's blue. And you see the higher part of the brain, there is a big higher activity at the frontal cortex here. But at the same time, there is a decrease in activity at the lower part of the brain. And this is unique. It was discovered very early, maybe in the 1970s, with oxygen consumption to the brain and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the physiologists, they call it restful alertness. Why? It is because all of a sudden your body, it goes into a big rest because lower activity of all these automatic process. Heart rate will go down, blood pressure will go down, the respiration will slow down. And anyway, so that was all described very early. But at the same time, you're not sleeping. The brain on top is active. It's actually reconnecting. But so this is paradoxical because usually if I lower the activity here, this will go down here and I go to sleep. This is why they say it's equivalent to sleep for the body, but it's not equivalent to sleep with the top, okay? So restful alertness is typical, unique to TM. And this will make the big difference on the effect of your brain and your capacity, your health, your brain, and your capacity to deal with stress and blah, blah, blah. So I'll give you an example now. I like to give this example because it's so telling. An example of what is restful alertness in life. You know, what does it do? to people when you practice TM. So there are two studies here done on the same group of people. In the US, there is a crisis of high blood pressure on young men, and women. They are young and they suffer from high blood pressure very young. They're only 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, and they already have a problem of high blood pressure because usually this is minority, demographic minority, Hispanic or Black in the US because they suffered from so many stress very early in their life. It's like some of us, we get high blood pressure only at 40 or 50 years old, but they have it at 20. Okay, so that's a big deal. So people were wondering, if we give high blood pressure pills to these kids, they'll have to take pills for the rest of their life. That's a disaster, and we should do something else. Somebody wise did this study about TM. So they taught TM to a group of youngsters, student, and with slightly high blood pressure, not too high, but it's slightly above what we would like to have normally. And then after 2 weeks, after 2 months of practice, blood pressure came down. 4 months of practice, blood pressure was way down, incredibly down. So it was a success. They would practice TM 15 minutes, morning and evening in class. Okay. Their blood pressure after 4 months, the study was over. They said that's a success because it does release the blood pressure. And but funny, they went back another 4 months after, checked the blood pressure again on the student. It stayed low. They had gotten rid of their stress of many years and lowered their blood pressure. And even after the study, if they kept going, they didn't practice TM in class. Maybe they did it at home, but some of them did not, or we don't know exactly what they did. But actually, the blood pressure stayed down, which was a surprise. So that's the restful aspect. See, their body went to a rest as deep enough that they got rid of the stress of previous stress that they had accumulated and their blood pressure went down. Okay, that's rest. The researchers were wise because they also checked the same population during the time of the study in these 8 months. How did they do in school? Okay, so to make a long story short, they became much better students. They had a reduced absenteeism, the rule infraction was reduced, and suspension rate was reduced to almost none for all of them. All of a sudden, they had lowered their blood pressure, but in their brain, they had this liveliness, like the alertness became so much more that they started making better decisions. I should go to school. They were able to see the future more. This is the FOMO networks allowed to do this. Envision the future. If I go to school, I'm going to be better off in life instead of having the joy of just skipping school and just have fun for a couple of hours, but flunk my years of. Anyway, you understand? They became so, to my knowledge, there is no mental technique or even behavioral psychology or anything that can actually was shown systematically to change the personality of someone, to make a better person out of one. What you were before and what you were after is just more, do less mistake, take better decision, be more attentive and something like this. So that was a big surprise, because you see here, restful is here, alertness is here. So that's restful alertness. It's unique to TM. And now, you probably understood by now, but I'm just gonna summarize a little bit how stress affect our health, you know. It's because the brain has this capacity of changing its structure depending on your experience. We call it brain plasticity. Due to brain plasticity, if you're exposed to stress repetitively, the brain will go in survival mode. It's going to be like going into high alert. And the more stress are piling up, the brain gets into high alert uh, all the time, almost. And then if it's in high alert, then it forgets about what you are. And then we call it the survival mode. We call it allostasis. It does that at the cost of development, because when you're in a high alert, you're not able to make best thinking decisions. Decisions are fogged by your situation of the moment situation. You don't envision the future or something like that. So anyway, the piling up of stress in the physiology, we call this in physiology, in medicine, we call it the allostatic load. It's really the piling up. And I'll show you some research with TM. They were back in the 90s. These research have shown that TM also is able to reverse the tendency of the stress to go up and stay high. It brings you down. Okay, so there were two studies done on students. They were college and university student, and TM was shown. They took a group of students having practiced TM for a couple of years compared to a group of TM, the regular curriculum without TM in the class, okay? So that's the two different groups. The TM group decreased the basal cortisol. Cortisol level of the TM group was notably significantly lower than the student without the practice of TM. So they had a difference in cortisol level, which is the stress hormone. Main stress hormone is cortisol. So, but then they went further with this group and they subjected them to pain and laboratory produced pain. You actually dip your hand into icy water, okay? I don't know if you ever tried this, but we usually don't try long enough. But if you put your hand into icy water, at the beginning it's very cold, but then gradually it becomes painful and painful. And then it can be very painful. You have to remove your hand. So they subjected the student to that test and they measured the cortisol reaction. Okay. So what they found actually is that the non-TM student, they had a higher baseline. The cortisol was higher at the beginning before the test. And then during the test, cortisol could not go up because it was already too high. There was not much reserved. It would not go up too much. Okay. And compared to the other group, when they dipped their hand, what happened is that the TM group cortisol level would spike really high up. And then as soon as the test was over, it came back down to the lower level. So, okay, say lower baseline and higher response to acute stress. Okay, so I have a little graph showing this here. This is how it worked in the modern life. We have all these, the stresses are the red arrows, you know, stress, bring your cortisol up. And then this is the resilience, it is the green one that brings your cortisol down. And then another stress, and then cortisol, but not quite down to the bottom. Then a bigger stress, and then it does not come down. Then another big stress doesn't come down. Eventually, you end up in high alert with higher cortisol. But then if you have a challenge, another big stress like this, it won't go up. You're not able to face the situation as much, and you start burning out because let's say you face a toxic situation, eventually, you can't do it anymore. You have no capacity to deal with it. And then this difference of cortisol level between the high and the low one is called the allostatic load. That's what it is. Eventually, the body will start accumulating problems because cortisol level is chronically high. Okay? So this is so allostatic load, it's measurable. You can measure this. And you can take somebody blood samples and then you can measure what kind of allostatic load they have, blood pressure and blood sample. You see allostatic load, this is physiologic indicators. You see, of course, here you have high blood pressure. You see cholesterol, glycosylated hemoglobin is diabetes, and all these are stress hormone and dehydroandrosterone sulfate, DHEAS. DHEAS is an hormone that is an indicator of longevity. The higher you have the DHEA, the younger you are. So if you want to stay young, you have to keep your DHEA high, okay? But you see, anyway, make a long story short, TM was shown in objective studies to improve all of these physiological indicators. All of them are improved, were shown to be improved by the practice of TM. So you see, TM is really able to reduce the allostatic load. And so much so that you can see here with TM, what's happening is that resilience is best. Even if you have a big stress like this, there's two things will happen. First, you will be able to deal with the stress more because you create more cortisol. It is an hormone that helps your body gather the strength to face the situation, either run away or fight or whatever, if you need something. Anyway, so it raises your glucose level, the muscle strength, everything, so that you can face the situation. See, this is what we could call good stress. Good stress is you start from a resting physiology, you face the stress with high cortisol, and then after the effect, cortisol comes back to its normal level. That's two different things. One, higher cortisol reaction when you have under acute stress. And second, you go down to baseline after. So this is resilience, so that you don't build up the stress, okay? So what is the proof of this? Okay, in 2013, American Heart Association brought together a group of experts, a committee of experts. Dr. Brook was the chief of this committee. It's called Beyond Medication and Diet, Alternative Approach to Lowering Blood Pressure. So they checked everything, every kind of meditation, Tai Chi or everything else than diet and medication. And what they found is TM is the only meditation practice that has been shown to lower blood pressure. First was a discovery, a recognition that why is TM the only one able? Because TM is the only one able to reduce the activity of the automatic pilot of the brain, the blue part that we saw before. And other conclusion, they said TM practice was associated with substantially reduced rate of death, heart attack. Sorry, let's go back there. heart attack, and stroke. So meaning not only it was able to reduce high blood pressure, but all the other measure of allostatic load, which are due to cholesterol and heart attack and stroke and cholesterol and all of these diabetes and everything. So it does not only reduce blood pressure, but a big change at the level of the physiology, okay? And actually, in order to make this decision, they looked at these studies. I'm just showing you one of there are many studies, but just this study shows it very well. This was a study on TM, 202 subjects. They were not young, 72 years old, although it's much younger than I am. You'll see later. Um, they were not young, but they were already suffering for some mild heart disease risk and possibilities and everything. So what they did is they taught TM to a group, the other group no TM, but just the regular following by the physician. They were followed by the physician, both group, but one group they added TM to the rest. And look at this. This is the curve, the mortality and curve of the group, TM group, and the other one. There is this big difference. You see the allostatic load here is completely reduced so much that after 6 years, 85% of the TM group was no problem. They were just fine. But 73, only 73% were fine. The difference, they were either dead or they had a myocardial infarction or stroke or something like this. And then they followed them up for 10 years and they found that they had all-cause mortality reduced by 40%, 49% for cancer, which was completely unexpected because you would not think that stress causes cancer, but it does probably, and you will see later, how it does it. But anyway, and life expectancy was improved by 23%. Life expectancy was improved by 23%, which is how can a mental technique that you 15, 20 minutes twice a day, you close your eyes, you just do it. It's very simple, it's natural, and effortless, and you don't have to concentrate or something. You just let the natural process of going inward happening, and then you're 72 years old. So you would say, imagine if you start at 35 or 30 or 25, how many years you will have more? I have a little bit of a news for you. This is this one. Forever young with TM. Okay, we always would like to be forever young. TM actually makes you biologically younger. And there is this study here that's not new. It was in 1982, but some other studies have confirmed this. But this one is just fun to look at because this is the control group. They measure the biological age. Biological age means that you can be 40 years old, but when I measure your blood pressure, your near sight vision, and your auditory threshold, these are things you can measure, and usually it gets worse when you age. So they had this group here. That's the control group, not practicing TM. They were that much biological age was minus 2.2. 5 years meditation, minus 5 years of biological age. And this group here was more like 15, 20 years. I forgot exactly how many years they had, but they were long-term TM. And then they have 12, they were younger, physiologically younger by 12 years. In a nutshell, what it says is that for every year you practice TM, you get 1 year younger biologically. It is, when I saw this in 82, I said, it's not possible, But after that, they made some study about the dihydroepiandrosterone sulfate I showed you before, and it confirmed the same 10 years. Actually, it seemed to plateau about 10 years younger than what you are really. So I don't know if you're like me, but I think I can tell you as a physician, knowing about science of aging and science, and I've never seen a small mental technique that give that kind of results. Everybody now is talking about exercise and good diet, and this is could stay, but an easy way out of getting aging, it's not seen very often. So that's good news about TM. And it's certainly related to the fact that the automatic process of your brain just goes to rest. And here, you remember I told you at the beginning of my presentation that when I started TM myself, I had an immediate results, and I could not believe that gave me so much relief from stress and insomnia and everything like this. But finally, in 2023, well, actually, that was in 2021, 2022, during the pandemic. If you remember, during the pandemic, the hospital, they were overcrowded, overwhelmed. Many of my colleagues, and I was there also, they became very tired, and they were nurses and physicians were just leaving burnout because they had to work day and night, and it was very stressful because they were afraid of getting themselves too sick and all of that. That was a big thing. And some wise doctor, Dr. Mark and Nestor in Florida, they decide to try TM on two hospitals. I think it's two different hospitals. 65 healthcare provider and 65 lifestyle as usual, meaning that you do the regular thing you always do. They were compared TM with lifestyle as usual. And here, check that, only after 2 weeks of practice, 45% reduction in anxiety. These are questionnaires, standardized questionnaires that the people fill, and they have a score. That's the psychologists, they do this. This is standardized thing that are recognized to measure properly anxiety. And then insomnia, 32% after 2 weeks. And then after 3 months, 62%, 44% reduction in symptoms of insomnia. This was actually a big surprise to the physicians, because the physician, they usually skeptical, they say, well, no. I mean, just this simple technique, I'm gonna do it, but if after 2 weeks I see no difference, I'm gonna quit because it's no big deal. I have no time to waste, about 20 minutes twice a day. How can I find this time? So but you see, and Dr. Nestor, because he had to convince his colleague to try. So he said, don't worry, we're going to check you. That was the first time that somebody was doing a test at 2 weeks, because you don't expect normally to have a big difference after only 2 weeks of practice. Guess what? They had a tremendous effect. So Dr. Nestor said the results are dramatic, not just because the size and significance of the improvement, but notably in how rapidly the results were seen. And he said this rapid and dramatic improvement is related in stress-related symptom is not often seen with the use of medication, much less with other easy to learn mental technique. It says everything. I'm not the only one saying this. You see, it says everything. Such an easy mental technique, and give you such a big results that no medication, no other thing can ever do. And I'm very happy about this study, because that was exactly my experience in 1978. Same technique, same results. You see? So, I mean, it is really, then, even myself, I was very happy about this study, because I said, this is exactly what happened to me. And then you try it, and then you keep it, because it's going to give you some some such nice results. So, but how does it work? How does it work? Actually, it's a very recent study. I'll make it. I think we're running out of time now, but I'll. You see, TM. Every time you learn TM, even when I did it in 78, they told me it's gonna get rid of deep-rooted stress. How can a mental technique go to deep-rooted stress? Like, for example, PTSD people, like a veteran coming from war zone and everything, sometimes they can be completely destroyed. They were not shot, but I mean, mentally they are very damaged. And TM is very effective on relieving their symptoms. It was shown recently to be the best technique to relieve PTSD, better than the best psychology technique that they have actually, called prolonged exposure. Anyway, how does it work? Well, in 2023, this study came out. It's a bit complicated, but there is a bunch of genes. They check the genes, the DNA of long-time TM practitioners compared to DNA of comparable people, same age, but without practicing TM. So they took both samples and they found that TM reduced the expression of conserved transcriptional response to adversity. I know it's complicated, but this is very telling, the name. Conserve, transcriptional is DNA. DNA is a transcriptional thing. Conserve response to adversity. It's a bunch of genes that actually, when you're faced with adversity, with stress, okay, the DNA picks it up and remember the stress that you have. Probably it's a protecting mechanism so that if you're again under the same stress, your physiology will be more able to react quickly. But the problem is we have stress and stress and stress and stress. So the DNA become very, almost filled with these conserved CTRA. It's the molecular signature of chronic stress. And now we have discovered that TM reduced this CTRA. So here is the capacity of TM to eliminate deep-rooted stress. And what it does is that CTRA promotes inflammation at the cellular level. And CTRA promote not only inflammation, but decrease the immune system capacity to fight disease and cancer and everything like this. This is why if your CTRA is high, you have accumulated inflammation at the level of the cell, and then you have low immunity. Okay, so then it's a fertile ground for disease, anything. And that would probably be the explanation of this year that we saw this slide I showed you, the reduce all this mortality, reduce cancer, reduce everything. It's probably explained by this CTRA being reduced. So that's good news. It's 2023, and so far I don't think any other mental technique was tested in the same way. So I cannot say if it does it the same or not, but that's for TM is a big news. Okay, so then we understood how it finally reduced the allostatic load, but I'm not finished. I just want to talk to you about what's happening at the level of the higher brain, the thinking brain at the top. What happened there is that you have this, you see, when you close your eyes, normal person close their eyes, the electric activity of the brain at the front. Here are the electrodes, they are front, middle, temporal, and then occipital. Anyway, so they come from the front to the back. So this is front and back. You see, when you close your eyes, you see this activity is alpha 2 activities. When I close my eyes, the back of the brain, which is the screen to which the screen of the vision it's there. Right? This is when you see something, it shoots on the back of your brain, kind of the image. And if I close my eyes, it becomes dark. So there's nothing to do with my occipital life. So it goes to rest. It creates these restful waves. When you start TM, look at the restful wave. They're not at the back only. They're all up to the front. And it's the only situation, only meditation, only time that this is happening is when you experience restful alertness. Restful, but this alertness is that the whole brain is now resting and reconnecting. Okay? It's reconnecting so much that we call it, you see the waves, they're the same. Huh? You see the top and the crest and how much they are the same from back to front, or we could say from to back. They're the same. Actually, it's like mirror. Huh? So we call this coherence, global EEG coherence. Global EEG coherence was associated, and it's also many studies have shown this. Increase intelligence, creativity, learning ability, short-term, long-term memory, academic performance. You're more intelligent. You become a better student. That's what I showed you at the beginning. And then more alertness, reaction time, and improve health. We just saw a bunch of improvement of health. But it's just good to remember that EEG coherence is everything good about the brain is related to EEG coherence. The more coherence the brain is, the better your capacity will be. We all know that we don't, and every scientist know that we don't use 100% of our brain. And until not so long ago, we did not know how to unleash the rest, the untapped part of our brain. TM seems to be this technique that will allow the whole brain to function properly. And one of the studies that demonstrate this, I'm going to briefly tell you about the default state of the brain. They have discovered that when you do nothing, no task, you just let your mind go free. Okay? There is a part of your brain that is called now the default mode. When the brain goes to rest, there is this network of the brain that lights up, you know. And this is how can we compare this is that the idle of the engine of a car, not electric car. The electric car, they stop, but the engine, the gas engine, it goes to just small activity, but not much. But this small activity is actually needed for the car to go back and go forward, okay? So, and actually, so it's called the default mode network. And here you see, these are medial aspect of the brain. The default mode network, it links together the two parts of the brain. It connects them, the left and right, the left and right. And it connects it in this way. See that this is an ordinary brain with not much of a practice of TM. If you practice TM, all these little dots, they start to connect themselves because of this activity alpha I showed you before. So then what's happening is that this default mode network connects the objective and subjective part of your brain together. There is a part of our brain, like you can call it the default mode network also. It contains all your memory, your wisdom, your experience of the past, your capacity to envision future, your capacity to recognize the need of others. All these good qualities are, let's say, in the subjective part of the brain, and the objective part of the brain is the working ones, part that you just do the job with it. But your job has to be supported by the other side. Otherwise, you know, you just lose one part of your capacity of being a good person. Anyway, this is why TM was shown by many studies, psychological study, to increase self-actualization, integration and stability of personality, self-regard, emotional maturity, capacity of warm interpersonal relations. Everything good, don't you want to have all these good qualities, psychological well-being, stress management, better mental health, and it's even linked to organizational effectiveness, work productivity, and effective leadership. They call it emotional intelligence. These are psychological principles that usually are considered mature when you're about 20 years old. After that, they don't change. If you reach about 20 years old, your self-actualization score will be this and it won't change. But with TM, it does change. And nobody thought that it was so possible to do this. And a study actually demonstrated that in a span of 10 years, the self-actualization score was increased by 30% between, let's say, 20 years old and 30 years old. So that was something unbelievable before. And it's a sign that the whole brain is connecting, it's working better. So how can we summarize this? The practice of TM makes your personality, the best part of your personality, shine. It makes you a better person, like the student I showed you at the beginning. And it works for everyone at any age, anytime. Just the best qualities will start to be manifested, to show, because otherwise, very often our best capacity and qualities are drowned or hidden by the stress of our active life. Okay? This is a way to understand that. I just want to show you an example of that because that's also a super interesting discovery that was done in Scandinavia, Norwegian team of Olympic team. That was it. Yeah, they took the team of Norwegian Olympics, and the psychologists went, and you see, you have to understand first that it's called brain integration, the capacity of the brain to be connected, the right and left and the front and the back. It can be measured now. You can measure it with the EEG, with a small test on the computer. This is all these things written here. I won't explain. If you want more information, I can do it during the question. But anyway, they compare the score of brain integration of ordinary athletes that they were in the Olympic team, but they had never win big time. They took compared to the same teams, the same team, but member of the team, but they were those who had win either Olympic or a couple of time world champion. They took the best one, and they compared their brain integration score. Okay, look at this. Control athletes, world athletes, they had a much better integration score. They were not meditators. It's not about TM. It's about the brain being able to connect itself completely properly. Okay? So if you connect your brain, it seems like the difference between a champion and an ordinary athlete is the capacity of the brain to be connected 100% of the time, in a 100% way, kind of all brain functioning. Okay? If you can have this, then you'll be best in your capacity of doing whatever. This is what I hint at the beginning of the presentation. In Norway, they did exactly the same for managers. They took the companies with ordinary success, and they took companies with big success. And they saw the leaders, the manager of these companies. You see the ordinary manager has this score. The top manager has this score here. Okay, so this is the kind of guy here. Sometime, I was wondering, why do they pay $1 million, $5 million a year to the guy to be chief of, Chrysler or anything like this? But it's because there are some guys that when you put them on top of something, it works. Okay, they're able to achieve. Okay, so that's why they earn these big salary, because sometimes I could not believe why they pay the guys like this, because some guys are known to be very successful. You see, so top managers, world-class athletes, and then long-term TM practitioner. Look at this. My God, what does this guy is able to achieve? It's still to be demonstrated, but you see, TM, what it does really has the capacity of developing the full potential, peak performance of a person. Okay. So if you want to earn millions of dollars a year, probably going, and you don't already do, it's best to start TM. Probably the best way of making a difference, I would say, because otherwise there is no school showing this or teaching that. Anyway, so now this is long-term TM. These people, they had practice, if I remember well, it's about 20 years. So it's a bit long, okay? And you don't want 20 years, wait 20 years to earn the $2 million, okay? So I'll show you the next slide is just an interesting one because they did the same test on a student in school. They were college student between September and December for 10 weeks. They learned TM, and they had another group of student uh, not practicing TM. So they had both group, so in about only 10 weeks, the college student went up like this on brain integration. And here you have the comparison athlete, but the comparison student was about the same thing. You see, in 10 weeks, the student college went higher up than the top level manager and the world-class athlete. Incredible, huh? Does this mean that this guy here, the student, if he starts doing, let's say, sport, he will become champion? Not necessarily, because you have to have the training and you have to have the previous, capacity and everything. But what it shows, I would say, is that whatever they want to do in life, they'll be much more successful than the other one. And you tell me, what is the proof of that? Well, the proof is here in the pudding, they say. There's a school in the US called Maharishi School of the Age of Enlightenment, where the student, they practice TM at the very beginning of their class, and they do it for the whole course of their study. And they end up winning everything. A couple of books were written about these students, and they win in sport, they win in Destination Imagination, the word of Odyssey of the Mind, and all these, and they're as high. It's a small school in Iowa, and they do as well or even better than Harvard and all of these university and stuff like this. So it's already a proof that you can, and they're not special student. They're just like everyone else, but they just happen to practice the good technique that allow them to use their brain fully. Okay, conclusion. Okay, Transcendental Meditation, TM. We have seen that it does improve resilience. It avoids allostatic escalation. That's what we say in physiology. It avoids this. It reduces all-cause mortality. All sorts of disease can be prevented because it decreases the inflammation of the cellular level. So this, it reduces biological age. It's not bad. It's not bad as a. By the way, I'm 82 years old. Not true. Okay, it quickly reduces. Quickly. You don't have to wait. The results are there. They're usually very quick. anxiety, insomnia, somatization, many other symptoms, but I did not told you about all of these, but burnout symptoms are also relief. And oh, I forgot to tell you about brain reaction to pain. There is a study that was done in about you see this test that you dip your hand in cold water. They did that with people practicing TM and compared to people not practicing TM. I'll tell you the result right in a flash, in a phrase. In about 3 months of practice, the reaction of the brain to the pain was reduced by 50% in the TM group compared to the non-TM group. And you see, pain has two components. One is the objective component of the pain is the source of the pain. And my hand is in icy water. It's objective. I know where it's from. And the other objective part of the pain is I can rate it from 1 to 10. In this test, the pain went up to 9 in 10. 9 in 10, which 10 is the worst pain you have ever had. So 9 in 10 was the pain before they removed their hand. So guess what? In both group, TM or not TM, TM was the pain was 9 in 10. It did not change the feeling of the pain. But what changed is the reaction of the brain to the pain. It's called a motivational affective component of the pain, which I call suffering. This is the suffering. You can have a pain 6 in 10 and suffer like terrible. And another person can have 9 in 10 or 10 in 10 and not suffer so much. You see, the subjective reaction to pain is very important in managing. It's like only after 3 months. And me, I was involved a lot with maternity care and during childbirth. Childbirth is kind of it's a tough, thing to do. And I have seen so often, regularly, my patient practicing TM, they had much easier birth, much faster, less suffering, and much more positive experience than the not practicing TM. It's because if you start to panic, the whole process gets disturbed, and it's the same for any kind of pain. And actually, I was telling my patient, sometime if you practice TM, you get rid of 50% of your suffering for the rest of your life. It's kind of interesting, huh? But sometimes we don't think about this, but these chronic little pain things here and there, they can ruin your quality of life, and some other people are not so bothered. So we reduce the brain reaction to pain. So that was it, just quick. And then we saw also that it favored brain integration, which is the big deal. Big discovery about TM is that it improves self-development. All the best quality of you start to shine. And then peak performance, it allows you to get the maximum result for what you're doing, the best result for what you're doing. And we saw it at the beginning, when you have good resilience and you're under some kind of a stress, cortisol level will go higher up for you to face the situation and then come down to the basic level so that you can rest and then you be ready for the next one instead of piling up all of this and increasing your CTRA, the inflammation of the cell and everything. You see, it's all working together. You just put that. It's all explainable by science. Very good. So thank you very much for listening. I'll be ready for question if we have still time, not much time left. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gagné. Highly enlightening research. And even as a teacher of Transcendental Meditation, I love hearing the way that you really dive deep into the research and bring out aspects of this research that are so profound and needed so desperately right now. You know, the world, there's lots of stress happening in many different parts of the world, here as well. And we all need a way to help increase our resilience towards it and deal with that. So thank you so much for diving so deeply into it. We don't have too much time. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. While people are doing that, I'll just mention quickly, if you want to learn Transcendental Meditation, how you can go about doing that. So the first step to learning TM is to attend a free preparatory session with a TM teacher. And so I'm going to put out in the chat our Canadian website. So our website is ca.tm.org. So you can go there, find someone in your area to talk to and discover more, dive a little bit more into the mechanics of the practice, how it works, and you'll be able to learn more about how the courses are structured. We do also have a price promotion happening right now. So now is a wonderful time to look into this and to talk with a teacher. So it's a really wonderful practice, as Dr. Gagné really dived into. And so if you're interested, then look into attending one of those free talks, find out more about how to learn and how the course is structured, and then your teacher can get you started on the next steps. And Taylor is wondering, Dr. Gagné, if there's any research that discusses epigenetics and its connection to TM.
Yes, 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 yes. Epigenetic. It's related to the CTRA that I explained. Actually, CTRA is an epigenetic change in the, because DNA never change. We have it from birth and that's what it is. Epigenetic is some part of our DNA is expressed and some part can be suppressed. So this is epigenetic. It's the way it's, they say it's like a, you see this dimmer switch. You see, your DNA is there, and I can have a dimmer switch. I can increase this part of DNA or decrease this part of DNA so actually, this CTRA is an epigenetic, and there is another article that was published before the CTRA, which explain all the epigenetic differences between TMers practicing TM and not TM. And I'll tell you, it's impressive. It could be the subject of a presentation in itself. There were about 200 genes that were differently expressed when you practice TM compare when you don't practice TM. Mind-boggling, 200 genes are expressed differently. The best genes for immunity are upregulated, they are increased, and the bad genes for cardiac disease and everything about, I think there were 132, cardiac, cancer, immunity, and all so on, they were reduced, okay? You reduce the risk of disease, you increase the risk of immune system being able to deal with whatever situation. This is epigenetic. And epigenetic, because if you ask me this question, it can be developed a lot because the problem now, why is the new generation and the last couple of generations so much under stress? Why are the educators, they're stuck with student in the class, even the small one, preschool or primary school, they're ADHD and there are all sorts of problem with behavior and learning disability and everything like this. We think, as a gynecologist, I can tell you because it was part of my job, we think it comes from previous generations, that the stress that is accumulated, the allostatic load, like these young black men and women in the US, they're only 18, 13 years old, and they have already high blood pressure. They got it from their parents, epigenetically. And this is why the First Nation, for example, here we have in Canada, since they were treated badly a couple of generations ago, they carry this. And now they have more problem with alcohol and all of these things. I mean, and it is so sad to realize that what we have done is that the mother also during pregnancy, they don't take enough rest, and they keep working and they do all sorts of other things that you see in traditional culture, a pregnant woman is like, it's like you just protect, completely protect. But we don't have to change our way of life. We have to break this chain of transmission, epigenetic transmission of disease tendency. You will read in the paper that now there are more cancer in women and men less than 50 years old than ever before. Nobody understands why. It is because of epigenetic. And I'll just to go shortly is that the only way I found to break this cycle, start TM. Start TM. That's what I was telling my pregnant woman. Start TM. You will protect your baby and you will guarantee that it breaks this. It's not only the fault of the mother. No, no, no. Don't interpret me wrong. Because the father also passed the stress during conception to the next generation.
Thank you so much for that highly detailed answer. And I think that was a wonderful note to end on as well. We're a couple minutes over time. Thank you so much to everyone who joined the call today. If you have any questions about Transcendental Meditation, feel free to reach out to a local center by going to ca.tm.org. You can connect with the teacher, ask them any other questions you have about TM. And this meeting has been recorded. It will be going up on our YouTube channel, which was linked in the chat, Meditation Canada. And you'll also be receiving an email with the recording as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully we'll be hearing from you soon to learn Transcendental Meditation. All the best.
So, bye, all the best.